Welcome to part 4 of my tutorial on procedural generation in Unity. Now that we have covered the vertices and triangles, it is time to move on to the third and final part of coding 3D models, the UVs. UVs are two-dimensional coordinates on an image. Each point on an image is mapped onto a vertex of the 3D model. We have 14 vertices, so we need 14 UVs. To display a two-dimensional image on a 3D model, the model can be unwrapped so that it can lie flat on the 2D image. This is why some of the corners of the cube had 3 vertices associated with them, because although they're in the same place in the 3D space, we need them to be associated with different locations on the 2D image. UV coordinates are determined by the location of the point on the image. The lower left-hand point of the image is 0, 0. The upper right hand is 1, 1. This is the x-axis. This is the y-axis. So all the red numbers are the x-coordinates, and all the green numbers are the y-coordinates. So right here in the middle would be 0.5 on the x. Right here in the middle would be 0.5 on the y, which is why these all have 0.5. So now we go back to the script. So here we are in the script. Below the triangles, we write the code for the UV. We write vector2 array. Vector 2s are just 2-point coordinates, 2-part coordinates. Cube UVs. That's the name of our array. Equals new vector2 array with 14 elements, one for each vertex, one for each vertex. And cube UVs 0 equals new vector2 0f comma 0.5f. Now the f stands for float because these are floating point numbers. They are not whole numbers, which is why they're not integers. Since they have a decimal place, you need to include the f. And now just continue this for every UV coordinate. And here we are with all the UVs typed in. And that completes the coding of the UVs. However, there are still a couple more things we need to code before the procedural generation will work. First, we need to make a reference to the mesh filter component that we put on the cube game object earlier. And now we declare a mesh. Press escape here so that it doesn't autofill. And then type mesh. This is declaring a mesh object named mesh. And we say mesh equals get component of the mesh filter type dot mesh. This line actually makes the connection between our mesh filter component and the mesh that we declared here. Now we type mesh dot clear. This clears out any vertice data that already exists in the mesh. And now we need to fill in the vertices, triangles, and UVs of our mesh. So the vertices equals the vertices that we created, which we named cube vertices. That's the name that we chose earlier during the vertice section. The triangles equals cube tris. Again, that's the name that we chose during the triangle section. And finally, UV equals cube UVs, which again is the name that we chose for our UVs. And now this completes all of the procedural generation code. But I want to also show how to handle an error. So I'm just going to add in an extra letter here. And now we save the script by pressing Control and S. And then we go back to Unity. Now it's loading. It's compiling the code that we wrote. And down here, you can see there's an error. So this says 70. First, it says the name of the script that causes the error. So it says it's procedural mesh. Then it says it's line 70 and character number 25. So we're going to go back to the code, look for line 70, and it's number 25. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay. So it's this right here. Now we do Control S again. Then go back to Unity. It's going to load that, and this error should go away. And so now we test our procedural generation code by pressing the play button to start our game. And there it is. This is our red cube here. Right now it just looks like a square though. So if we go into the scene window here, we can then rotate our cube. Like that. And then go back to the game. And now you can see it's rotated. By clicking and dragging this tab, I was able to see the scene in game view at the same time. And now we can move around our cube and rotate it. And you can see that it is actually a cube. And one last thing I'd like to show how to do is to change the image that is displayed on the cube. So we used a solid color in our material earlier, but we can change that. So we go to the Assets folder, go to Materials, go to your material again, so go to your Assets folder, right-click in the blank space, click Import New Asset, then find the image on your device. Now go to Materials, go to your material that you created earlier. Now under Albedo, press this circle dot icon. And the image that you added should now appear in this list. If you don't see it right away, you can just type in the name here. And here's the file that I brought in. Now I still had the red background, which made it look weird, but I changed it back to white background. And you can see now that our cube has changed texture. And that completes our tutorial series on procedural generation in Unity. Now you know the basics of how to make 3D models using code, but you haven't seen the true power yet of what you can do with it. Here's just an example of a more advanced procedural generation project that I'm working on, where every plant looks different from the next. And that completes this tutorial series on procedural generation in Unity. Thank you for watching until the end.